Hi everyone, please visit my previous videos on introduction to Scrum and Scrum roles. In this video, let's begin by understanding the Scrum events. So these are the Scrum events. You have sprint planning, sprint, daily Scrum or referred as DSM, sprint review, sprint retrospective, backlog refinement or backlog grooming. So we will go one by one. So all these events are basically time-based events such that every event has a maximum duration. So the heart of Scrum is the sprint. It's a time-boxed event of 2 months duration, but it can go up to a maximum of 1 month duration as well. A new sprint immediately start after the previous sprint has concluded. And during the sprint, there should not be any changes that are made to hamper the sprint goal, and the quality of the goals do not decrease. So basically, each sprint has a sprint goal, as in what needs to be built and what design you have and plan to build that particular product and the resultant product increment. So sprint contains these activities which are responsible, which are necessary to produce the potentially shippable product increment. So increment is something, it's a sum of all your product backlog items which you complete during the sprint and the value of the increments of the previous sprints. So we will cover more in detail. So on the very first day of your sprint, the Scrum team will gather to conduct the sprint planning. So Scrum team comprises of your dev team plus product owner and Scrum master. And product backlog is the input to this meeting, right? So product backlog, it is comprises of all your ordered list of the items which are needed for the product. It contains of all your requirements, features, enhancements, and the fixes, right? And so the team gathers in order to understand, in order to decide that what will be included in this current sprint, right? So the sprint goal is set, it is established, as in the goal gives the flexibility to the development team. So as the development team will progress, it will keep the sprint goal in mind, right? It keeps in order to satisfy this goal, it implements the specific functionality and the technology, right? So the requirements are clarified more in detail, understanding the risk and the complexity. Also, the story points are analyzed, right? The sizing of your story, is it appropriate that we can cover in this particular sprint? Are we okay with this particular velocity to go ahead, right? So also they decide how this delivery can be accomplished, right? So wherein you have a detailed, you define the detailed tasks, the detailed design and planning, any technical approaches, any blockers are there, so that we can update in the work items. So it is also a time boxed event with a 2 weeks duration of a sprint. The maximum it can go up to 4 hours, and with 1 month of sprint it can go up to a maximum of 8 hours. So daily Scrum, or often referred as DSM, it's a 15-minute time boxed event in which it's time boxed event for the development team, right? It's held every day and it's consistent in nature, and it's recommended to be at the same place, right? So herein it allows the teams to hear what the others are working upon and if there are any roadblockers. So generally there are three questions which the team covers, like what I did yesterday and what will I do today and do I see any blockers. But these are not the standard questions. These are just for reference. It's mainly to bring the teams together, to build that particular trust, and to wherein they take up that ownership. And also the team can go through the burn down charts, the forecasting, right, within that duration. So it helps them to identify the obstacles that can be covered in this particular meeting, and also if there are any adjustments that are required to meet the particular forecasted delivery. Here you see the sample illustration of the sprint burndown chart. So it shows the amount of the work that has been completed in a sprint and the total work that is remaining. Right, so you can see the actual story points. 90 was estimated and how it gets reduced by the end of your sprint. So the charts, it slopes downward over the sprint duration and across the story points completed. It provides the day-to-day measure of the work that remains in a given sprint or a particular release. So you can see the idle slope and the actual slope that is being covered. So sprint reviews held at the end of the sprint to inspect the increment and to update the product backlog based upon the customer and the stakeholders' feedback. In this meeting, so the product owner invites the Scrum team and the key stakeholders. He demonstrates and discusses the current status of the product backlog and also what work has been done and what is not done. The development team will discuss if it has ran through any problems and how those problems had been solved. Right? They give a demo of the working software and also based upon that demo, if there is any feedback that is being provided, so based upon that feedback, the product backlog is updated, and also there is a review of your timeline, budget, and the uh, priorities for your next further upcoming functionalities. So sprint retrospective is held on the last day of your sprint, wherein the Scrum team will participate in this retrospective meeting. No other stakeholders are invited. The Scrum team will inspect itself and create a plan of improvements for the further sprint. And it's also time boxed event. It goes up to maximum 3 hours meeting for 1 month duration of your sprint, and all the areas are identified and an improvement plan is developed. So backlog refinement or grooming is a session wherein the product owner explains the stories to the team and the team will come up with the questions or clarifications and develop a common understanding. The story points are estimated using the estimation tools like Planning Poker or Scrum Poker, and Fibonacci series are assigned to the user stories. So you have an improved story quality of your stories, and also team can use this time to size the stories once the refinement is complete. So the story should be passing the definition of ready prior being a candidate for the sprint planning. So you see this illustration as in how the based upon the prioritization of your user stories, you can update in the product backlog. So this is Scrum in a nutshell from start to finish. You can see product backlog is an input to your sprint planning meeting, and then you have a sprint goal that is determined, and sprint backlog, it is the set of your product backlog items selected for the sprint plus a plan for delivering the product increment. Alright, so you have a sprint which is a potentially shippable product increment, and you have a DSM, which is an event which happens on daily basis. Once your sprint is done, you have a sprint review meeting with all the stakeholders, and retrospective is to inspect what went well in the sprint and what didn't go well and what improvements we could come up for the further sprints. So this is in a nutshell. Thanks for watching. Thanks everyone. If you like my video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thanks.